Did you know that insulin resistance is the cause of most of the diseases of today? But a lot of doctors are not talking about that. They're not even focusing on that. In my last video, I actually explained to you what insulin resistance is. In this video, I'm going to tell you 8 natural ways that you can reduce your insulin resistance. So stay tuned. Talking about insulin resistance is so important because that's something that affects most of the world's population today. So we are going to talk about, in simple terms, what exactly is insulin resistance. And if you stay with me to the end of this video, you will really understand and then apply these 7 secrets I'm going to be telling you on how to reverse insulin resistance. Welcome to my channel. My name is Enorita James. I am a clinical research scientist of over 22 years experience. In my channel, I talk about preventive measures for good health because I am an advocate of prevention, and I believe that prevention of disease is much better than cure. I've worked for many years in the hospital. I've seen how patients suffer during treatment, especially treatment of diseases that they have to carry for life. So welcome to today's video. Increasing our sensitivity to insulin is one of the best things we can do for our health. A high fasting blood sugar or a high HbA1c due to insulin resistance increases our risk of type 2 diabetes and of course heart disease and even Alzheimer's diseases. And it puts us at a greater risk of becoming overweight or even obese. The reality is that our blood sugar ties in every aspect of our health, and the more we can control it by increasing our insulin sensitivity, the better off we are going to be. So let's go straight into these 8 methods or 8 steps you can take to reduce your insulin resistance. Number 1, intermittent fasting. One of the quickest ways to reduce insulin resistance is to incorporate intermittent fasting into your routine diet. Intermittent fasting simply means that you have a daily fasting schedule. You can split your time up each day into a period that you do not eat and a period that you eat. Now, one of the most popular variations is the 16 hours fasting and the 8 hours fasting window. That means you can probably finish your last meal at 6 p.m. in the evening, and then you will not eat again till 10 a.m. the next day. Now, the reason that this fasting helps to reverse insulin resistance is that it improves insulin sensitivity. This means your cells taking glucose more readily, and this brings your insulin levels down. If you want to try intermittent fasting, especially if it is for the first time, I recommend you start with just 12 hours a day. Maybe you stop eating by 8 p.m. in a day, in the evening, for example, and then you do not eat again till 8 a.m. That is if you're just starting. And then you graduate gradually to 16 hours or up to 20 hours, like I do 20 hours or more. I eat my last meal at 6 p.m. and I take my next meal the next day at 2 p.m. I have 2 tips I can give you during your intermittent fasting, especially if you're beginning. Number 1, try to take electrolytes in between during your fasting periods and take a lot of water. It will help you. Then number 2, when you eat, add an unsaturated fat to your meal at the end of your meal. For instance, you can do a salad with an avocado pear, or you can add a salad and then sprinkle this olive oil on it. That will greatly help you to fast longer. Those are my 2 tips if you're just starting out on intermittent fasting. Now, the reason you take electrolytes is that when you're fasting, at times your body is depleted of electrolytes. So it can help you. But be careful of the brand you do buy. Look at the brand very well, because some of these brands, they might even add sugar. And that will not help us in reverting insulin resistance. Number 2 is to take a walk every morning before breakfast. When you go for morning walks, you allow your muscle to take up glucose for the energy. And most times when your muscles take up glucose to produce energy, they do not really need much insulin because you've not eaten anything to spike up. So whatever glucose was remaining when you just woke up, your muscle takes it up. So that is why it's good you go for morning walks, do some exercises. You can even do a little jogging, just for your body to take up those glucose naturally. And when you do this, the insulin is reduced, and over time, your cells become even more sensitive to insulin. Number 3, start taking some natural sugar regulating vitamins. I have a video that I talked about the kinds of food that you can eat to actually reverse your diabetes or regulate your sugar. And I'll link the video right here. But there are some vitamins that actually help you reduce your sugar. There are some vitamins, a lot of research has been done on that. And basically, there are about 4 vitamins that can regulate your sugar. You have the vitamin B1. Now, this is not the regular vitamin B1 that is soluble in water. This vitamin B1 is soluble in fat. I think it's a fat-soluble vitamin B1 called benfotiamine. Research is really on this to actually see whether this can even revert diabetes. So this supplement is very good to reverse insulin resistance. Vitamin D has also been shown to help in reversing insulin resistance. Omega-3, vitamin C, and also vitamin E. So these are the vitamins that are good. As for supplements like cinnamon, I think I talked about that in that video that I've linked. So you can go ahead and watch that video. I talked about a lot of things, supplements, natural supplements you can take to reduce your sugar. When these supplements also plays a role in increasing the cell's sensitivity to insulin. And when this happens, you are automatically reversing insulin resistance. Number 4, get enough sleep. Poor sleep has a huge impact on blood sugar. Now, a recent study found that men who slept less were 2.8 times more likely to develop diabetes. Not only does poor sleep cause our fasting blood sugars to be higher, but it impacts our blood sugar the whole next day and then promotes glucose intolerance. The blood sugar response to food you eat and insulin release is more significant after a night of poor sleep compared to a night that you slept very well. On top of that, your body is more insulin resistant following a night of poor sleep. Another thing is that poor sleep affects your hunger hormones. Example, the ghrelin, G-H-R-E-L-I-N. This hormone is responsible for creating hunger pangs in your body. So you find out that this is going to be much higher if you did not sleep well. Studies have shown it. People that sleep poorly have higher levels of ghrelin, and they also have lower levels of leptin hormone. The leptin hormone is the hormone that signals to your body that you're full. That means you're not hungry. So you find out that when you have high levels of ghrelin and low levels of leptin, that is not good, because that can tempt you to be taking snacks in between meals, and this will spike up your insulin, leading to more insulin resistance. Number 5 way to increase your insulin sensitivity or to revert insulin resistance is to reduce stress. I know that is easier said than done. Everybody is stressed today. But the challenge is that when you're stressed, there are 2 kinds of hormones that your body releases: cortisol and glucagon. And these 2 hormones release a lot of sugar into your system. And you know that when sugar is released into your system, insulin is released from the pancreas. And the more insulin that is released, the more your cells become insensitive to the insulin. So, reduce stress. I have a blog post that actually talked a lot about how you can reduce stress by taking some breathing exercises intermittently during the day. I will post the links to that blog post. If you have the time, you can go and read the blog post to see how you can reduce your stress. It has really helped me, because there's no way during work, one way or the other, you will not be stressed. But you can regulate it, and it will really, really help your insulin. Step number 6 is to stop all kinds of sugar. I know if you have a sweet tooth, it's difficult for you, but believe me, avoiding sugar, whatever pain you get from avoiding sugar, is better than the pain and the stress of treating diabetes. Reduce your sugar completely, whether it is refined sugar or whether it is substances you buy in the shops that have a lot of sugar in them. Just reduce it drastically. If you can just reduce it, believe me, you'll be amazed at how your body can become more sensitive. Your cells can become more sensitive to insulin. I have a video that I talked about what happens to your body if you can stay with that sugar for at least 30 days. Go ahead and look at that video. I think it's a short, very short 1-minute video, which I will link right there. So reduce your sugar. That is one of the best ways you can reverse insulin insensitivity. Now, the 7th one is to remove all vegetable oils. All kinds of vegetable oils like canola oil, soya bean oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil. All of these oils are inflammatory in nature. They have a very high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, but they also oxidize very rapidly when you cook with them, and they also oxidize in your body. And many experts believe that they also contribute to the pathology or the pathophysiology that leaves you with type 2 diabetes. So avoid them. Recent research says that the more fat you eat, the lower your insulin levels, and the less insulin resistance, the longer you live, and the less cardiovascular diseases, and the less inflammation that you have. So what kind of fat should you eat? What is healthier? Saturated fat or unsaturated fat? Eating good fats in place of saturated fats can also help prevent insulin resistance. So while saturated fat may not be as harmful as we used to think, because before they used to say saturated fat is very harmful, but in recent times they said it's not so harmful. But it is much better to stick to unsaturated fat. So what are the examples of unsaturated fat that you can switch to in case you've been working with all this kind of fat? I know a lot of people, cook with vegetable oil, sunflower oil and all that. I used to cook with it, but for close to a year now, I don't go near it. So what kind of fat can you use? What are the fats that are unsaturated fat? Butter is an unsaturated fat. So stick to butter, put away margarine, stick to butter. Olive oil is very good. Peanut oil, canola oils, avocados. I use avocado. But the avocado oil is very good for deep frying. If you want to fry your plantains or you want to fry anything you want to fry, it's good to use avocado oil if you do not have olive oil. But for me, I use olive oil to make my stew. I use olive oil to make eggs. Any kind of little fry I want to do, I use olive oil. If I want to do deep frying, I use avocado oil. Is it avocado or avocado oil? That's what I use because it's very good. And then you can use things like nuts, nuts like almond nuts, hazelnuts, and so on. Those are foods that contain unsaturated fatty acids that are good for us. Another good fat is egg yolk. It's also very good. It contains omega-3. So these are things you can take to reverse insulin resistance. That is my 8th point, I think. And with that, I've come to the end of this video. If you've not started doing any of these things I've listed above, I think you should start it if you want to reverse insulin resistance, because insulin resistance is something that I think 80% of the population has it. And a lot of us do not even know that we have it. So now, how do you know you have insulin resistance? I have a video I released last, as I said. You can go ahead and listen to that video to be able to know how to check your body. You can also check it at home to find out if you have insulin resistance. And you can also check it in the laboratory where they will take your blood samples and run some tests to let you know if you have insulin resistance. This is so important. It can prevent you from becoming diabetic. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you got 1 or 2 points and I hope you will try and implement them. Let's get ourselves insulin resistant free. See you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.